Hi, Dana Taylor here for week 3 questions and commentary for COM 3433. In Mattel's television and American culture, he discusses that the cost per 1,000 viewers has gone up, even though primetime ratings continue to decline. On page 60, he talks about targeting a more specific and narrowly defined audience segment. Is this the reason the price is continuing to increase while ratings are going down? Is it because advertising agencies now guarantee reaching a very specific audience? And does this justify the rising cost? On page 64, he talks about advertising being difficult to measure in effectiveness, and it's a very risky venture. But he then says it's really government subsidized because it is a tax write-off. Is it a necessary government intervention, or does this lend itself to the idea that advertising is necessary because the government thinks it's necessary, or would we buy the products anyway? And does this hamper our non-commercial public television? Then in Open TV, Christian talks about marketing on page 80. And he says, do you feel that Open TV producers, do you feel that Open TV producers' marketing is more genuine because it falls to one person to do it? He talks about how with Open TV versus Legacy TV and the indie producers, that really one person is responsible for the marketing instead of an agency. And if you think it's more genuine, or you don't think it's more genuine, why? And on page 98, 99, Christian talks about being able to live the dream and producing indie content, but he says it's limited by not having deep pockets like Legacy TV has. And so do you think with the advent of crowdsourcing funding, that this gap could be lessened, more independent content could be paid for by maybe us in several of the apps that are available to raise money? And then in Post TV, Strangelove on page 125 and 26 talks about the rising use of streaming services. They're on the increase, but at the same time, the number of Americans who say they're not willing to pay for a subscription service also grew by 7%. So this seems like a paradox. So do you think it's odd that usage is up, but so is their unwillingness to pay? Is this a cultural trend? I know this chapter talks a lot about piracy, but is that the wave of the future, really? Or why or why not? And on page 139, he raises the questions about being alone together versus more together in a multiple screen environment. This is really interesting to me and something I look at a lot. I talk about the younger generation sitting right next to each other in the same room, and they text. They don't communicate. So, and they're not watching the same thing in the same room ever, I don't think. So is this causing a breakdown of communication skills in our society? And what effects do you think it will have long term? Not just on our media usage, but on society as a whole. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next week.